everyone, welcome back. So in today's video we are going to look at PHP functions. So in the previous videos we looked at different concepts including PHP variables, PHP if statements, and many other concepts. If you have not watched, if this is your first episode you're watching, please watch the previous videos. I will leave the link in the description so that you can fast catch up with those ones. So in today's episode we are going to look at PHP functions. So PHP functions, in a PHP or in programming at large, a function is a block of code that performs a specific task and can be reused throughout your code. So I want you to take an example of a remote. Okay, so on the remote we have different buttons. Okay, on the remote we have different buttons that are used for different functions. So say you want to pause, you just click on pause. So you want forward, you click on forward. So you can see they arranged different functions into different buttons. Essentially that's what we're trying to do with a function. So a function gets some logic and then it puts it together in one block. Okay, so let's say you want to calculate area of a triangle. So to calculate the area of a triangle, it takes some number of steps. So you can get all these steps or all these instructions, you put them in the same block, and then maybe you call it area, calculate area, and then that one becomes a function which is performing a specific task, and in this case we'll be calculating the area of a triangle. Okay, so after doing this, you will see that our code becomes modular. Okay, it is going to be arranged according it is going to be easy to read and even to maintain at the end of the day. Okay, because the most important thing when you are developing a software is you should be able to come back after some time and you can able to go through your code with ease to maintain it or update it. So a PHP function is defined using the function keyword, followed by the function name and a set of parentheses containing parameters the function may accept. Not necessarily it has to, but sometimes it accepts these parameters or the variables that it is going to use to perform that task. The function block is then enclosed in curly braces, and this is how the syntax looks like. Okay, so you have the name of the function, you have the function, and then you have the function name followed by the arguments or parameters, and then the code that's going to be executed or the logic is put in the curly brackets. Okay, so let's look at an example. For instance, let's say you want to calculate age. Okay, so you can see we created a function and we called it calculate age. Okay, let me first grab my pen here. So if you look, we have this function called calculate age. Okay, so this process of creating this function is called the defining step. So a function has two steps: the defining the function and running the function. So running the function, sometimes we call it invoking. Okay, so it is same as invoking that function. So running that function, so you see on top here we put the logic of calculating the area, but does not mean that it will actually activate itself to perform this calculation. You have to call it. As you can see on the remote, the buttons to perform different tasks, they are all there, but they cannot click themselves. They cannot do any effect on a TV when you have not instructed that button, and that is the step what we call invoking, okay, or calling the function. So the function is always going to be there waiting for someone to invoke it or to run it, and when you run it, then it will execute this logic you have. Okay, so let's try to do an example in VS Code. Okay, let's try to do an example in VS Code. So I'm just going to go back to my folder, which is in htdocs. Okay, and we have here YouTube series, and this is going to be lesson 4. So I'm creating here a folder called lesson 4. Okay, so open this folder in VS Code. Okay, so I'm opening this folder in VS Code, and I'm just going to create a file called index.php. Sorry for that. Index.php. Okay, fine. So the first step is let's put PHP tags here. Okay, so inside here, let's write our PHP. So we said the function has 2 steps, the defining. So here you can define the function, and the step 2, this is step 1. Okay, and then step 2 is executing the function. So here is invoking the function. Okay, so let's first define a simple function that calculates age. Okay, so normally when you are going to create a function, the logic that of calculating, you are the one who knows the logic, so you must be knowing the logic you want to do that calculation. So let's first define a function, and we said we define it using the function keyword. Okay, so let's write here the function keyword followed by the function name, which right now is calculate age. So if I'm calculate about I'm talk about these names, they should be generated from what the function does. Okay, so if your function calculates age, it is good you call it that. Okay, if it does the area of a circle, give it a name that actually explains the task it is doing. Okay, so for this one, let's say a function, and you give it a name, calculate age, and then here let's put the logic. Okay, so the logic is we want to say maybe echo 2000, so maybe 2023 minus 1993. Okay, so this is a simple function that is just calculating and echoing here the age. Okay, it is echoing the age. So this step here we are defining it. Okay, at this step here we are defining it, and then on this step here we can execute it. So we can just say calculate age, and we call it like so. Okay, so when you call the function or you are invoking the function, it goes up here and then executes the logic that is inside that function. So if you wanted to see the results, let's head to localhost, not 3000, just localhost, and it is in YouTube series lesson 4. Okay, so let me zoom in. Okay, so you can see it is putting 30. So this 30 is coming, this 30 is coming from this logic. Okay, so yeah, so there are 2 steps, and this error is I think because of not putting any passing any variable here. Okay, so yeah, so that is, the function is as simple as that. You have to define a function that does a particular task. Okay, so take your time before you create a function. It should know what you are aimed at. What do I want my function to do? What does it do? So normally, first even write you can write it down, what the function you want that function to do for you. The logic behind how it is going to do it, you should have it like on the paper. Okay, so define it, and then you can invoke it or call it by just calling out its name, and then you put the parentheses. Okay, so let's continue and see another one concept about functions. So another thing about functions is that they can take in arguments or parameters. As you can see, most of the things are based on different parameters. Okay, maybe we want to calculate the age. You can see we can pass in the born year. So instead of having this year subtracting 1993 here, okay, so instead we can make this one a parameter here, so that a user can input this, and then it will be able to calculate for him or her the age. Okay, so we can just now update our function. Okay, we can just go and update our function. So instead of just putting this, hard coding this manually with the hand, we can accept it as a variable, and you just simply write the variable in the parentheses like that. Now this variable here, we can access it inside here. Okay, so you can see now that it will be calculating the age, but now you have to input, or you have to give it a born year. Okay, you have to give it a born year. You put in the year when that person was born, and then the program will be able to calculate for you the age of that person. So let's try, and you can see now that it is expecting a parameter. You have to pass in the year, maybe 1989. Okay, so if we calculate for 1989, let me refresh. You can see this person is 34. If I put in 2000, okay, let's see, this person is 23 years. Okay, so you can see now it is dynamic. Okay, so the parameter you pass in here, okay, then on the actual function you pass in the actual figure here. Okay, so this figure can be coming from a form, it can be coming in any place. We are going to see in the future, but for now, when you pass in the parameter from above here, then you should be able to use it inside in the logic. Okay, and then down here you should be able to also give an actual figure. Okay, so let's just do one more example under this. So let's say we want to do a function that calculates the area of a triangle, as we said earlier. So want to create a function that calculates area. Okay, a function, let's say calculate area function. Okay, so want to calculate area that calculates a function. So the first thing is to say function, and then you give that function a name. So in this case, I'm just going to give it curric area. Okay, you can just say area of triangle. That is to be more specific. And how do we calculate the area of a triangle? So we know that area of a triangle, area is equal to a half. Okay, we know it is a half, then times base, then times height. Okay, so you can see it is dependent on some of these parameters. So these parameters, they are passed as variables. All these things that we use that are dependent on performing a certain calculation, or they are the ones that are determining the value you're going to use inside the logic, then you should use them as parameters or arguments. So this base, I'm just going to take it as a parameter, and then also you can take in dollar height. Okay, it is also dependent on height, and then inside here, instead of writing this, I'll write 0.5, which is same as a half, times, which is star, base, and then it is actually dollar base, so say dollar base, and then dollar base, and then times dollar height. Okay, so you can see this is the logic of calculating the what? The logic of calculating the area. Okay, the logic of calculating the area is just like this. Then afterwards, we can echo out that area, echo dollar area. Okay, as simple as that. So now we define the function. Now we have to execute it down here. So we can say calculate calc. So not edge, but calculate area of a triangle. Just paste this one here. Okay, and now you have to pass in arguments, and you can see here expected 2 arguments. Okay, so pass in the base, maybe base is 10, and then pass in the height, maybe 20. Okay, so if you calculate right now and you see, you might get something like 100. Okay, so let's first remove this first one. Okay, let me first stop this one so that we can see the value very well. Okay, so we have 100. Okay, so of course, after you have gotten the answer, you can go ahead and do a lot of things with it. Okay, so let's go to the next concept, and the next concept is about the return keyword. Okay, so at the end of the day is that functions can also return values using the return keyword. So maybe you are calculating the sum of numbers and you want to give out that sum. Okay, not always that we are going to be echoing out figures or do something like that, but most times we actually return that value or whatever we are aiming at. Okay, so let's just do the same example here. Okay, let's just do the same example here. So if you go down here and we define one more function, and this function does the adding. Okay, I can first run that. So, and I'm just going to take off that one from the screen. So we have a function which adds, and it has 2 variables, num1 and num2. So these are like 2 numbers that you're going to use in the addition. And now the return is, what do we want? What do we want to do? We want to return the summation of these 2 numbers. Okay, now if right now and you come and execute it the way we did, let me just first remove this. If we just do like this, the way we did before with the other one, you are not going to get anything on the screen. As you can see clearly, there is nothing on the screen. And this is because here the function is returning the summation. So it is all about you to use that summation. Okay, the figure here, this function now is just like, if for instance we apply these two numbers, it is just num1 plus num2, which is like 5 plus 5, which is 10. So this function is right now equal to 10. So just take like this one is same as writing 10, just like that. So it won't do anything with that. It has nothing to do with that. It doesn't know what to do. So you have, either you can store it in some other variable, which for instance you can say $sum, and now this 10 you can see now is stored in this variable called sum, and now we can echo out that variable. For instance, we can say echo $sum. Okay, so this one will execute. Okay, this one will be executed. Okay, so this one will be executed. So this value we get here in this return, we store it in this $sum. Now we can come and echo out $sum. Expected variable $sum in, okay, so let's see what do we have. Remove this $. Okay, so just refresh. Okay, we have a 10 here. Okay, so you have to be very careful if you are using in this place here why it was working. You can see we always did the echo inside the calculate area. We are doing the echo inside it, and that's why when we came outside here there was no need for us to do the echo. Okay, but then if you don't put the echo and you have this return keyword, that means it will only give you this value you're going to get here, and then you can store that value or you can come and echo it out. Okay, I don't know if you have gotten how we use this return keyword. The return keyword only gives you access to that value after you have done your computation. We can apply it to our area here. Okay, so let me now calculate area of, instead of a triangle, let's do calculate area of a rectangle. Okay, so down here I'm just going to put here calculate. Here is going to be area of a rectangle. Okay, so we all know area of a rectangle is dependent on two things, width and height. So here we'll have width and height, or length and width. Actually they just say length, and then here we put width. So we know very well that area of a rectangle is dependent of length and width. Okay, so now let's move on. So the area now, it will not be a half times this, it is going to be length, okay, times width. Okay, as simple as that. This is the area of a rectangle. So instead of echoing out here, we simply return. So we just say return, and right now is giving you this area, is returning it out. Okay, so we come here to invoke. So if we just say calculate, if we say calc area of a rectangle, and we pass in, for instance, values, let's pass in some values here. Maybe let's say length is 10 and width is 5. So this one should give us 50 in the theory, but if we don't put it anywhere, let me just first go and take off that one. If I refresh, you see there is nothing on the browser, but then what is this doing? This one is just now a value. It is not stored anywhere, it is not echoed anywhere. Okay, so if we said echo this, it would now make sense. Okay, you see it is now giving you 50 because this value was hanging, was just there, and there was nothing it was doing. So if you come and echo it, and now you can actually have access to it. Okay, So remember that when you use the return keyword, always try to save your result here inside a variable so that you can be able to access it. So this one would be, for instance, dollar area is equal to calculate area of a rectangle, and then we could come and echo out area. Okay, as simple as that, and it will do exactly the same thing. Okay, so this approach is good because, for instance, you can imagine we might be having a big project and we are using a function can be used as an input in another function. So let's say we are trying to calculate the area of a banner. Okay, we are trying to, maybe you are printing, or you are going to buy iron sheets, or you are going to buy a metal plate, and you are trying to calculate the price of a plate depending on its area. Okay, so first you would calculate and get this this area here, you get. So you might first calculate this area, and then you have another function which has the price. Okay, so for instance, we can do this. We can just say function, and this function, what it will be doing, it will be price, maybe metal price. Okay, and it might be taking in the price of each meter or of each square meter. So this is the price, and then here it can be taking in area. Okay, so you have a function which takes in price and area. Okay, so when you come down here, you see this metal plate price, metal price, it takes in two variables, for instance a price and then the area. And now, so we can use this area we calculated from another function, we use it as an input in this function. That's how this can be very much helpful. Okay, so we can come here and we say for instance, so we have this area and the price, so we can just say price dollar total. So we can say dollar total is equal to dollar price. So this is price times the area. Okay, times the what? Times the area. And then we can of course also return, we can return the area here. Okay, we can return this total, not area. We can return dollar total. Okay, we can return dollar total, this total here, and then we can come here and we have total price. So we can just say dollar total, maybe total price. I can put it in this variable, and I say it is equal to metal price. Okay, and metal price takes in two parameters. Let's say the plate, each square meter is maybe 10,000, and then now we pass in the area. Okay, so we can pass in, of course, the area that we exposed here. So I can just come here and I pass in already the area. Okay, I can pass in the area, or I could even do this. I could pass in a function itself like that. Okay, the area is going to be calculated from this. You see that? So a function can be an input in another function. So you see, in calculating metal price, we wanted the price and the area. And now if we call total price, we pass in the price of the metal, and we also pass in the the area we have. Okay, so if we now execute this, if we come and we say echo, so we can say dollar echo total what? Total price. Total, there is no echo, it is dollar total price. Okay, as simple as that. And since there is no here ending quotes, semicolons, so let's check, let's make sure it is the only one we are putting. So if I do this, you can see I have 5,000. Okay, so you can see we are just inputting this whole function as an input to this function. Okay, that one is very much possible, and it is very much possible because of this return, because this function returns the area, and then this area is what we are going to use in this function here. Okay, so I hope you understand why this return keyword is very important while using functions. So the next concept is looking at default values. Okay, so sometimes you have a function and it is doing a particular task, the way we saw, maybe calculating the area or something. So giving a particular default means that in the case those values they are not passed in, then you should be able also to do the calculation still. Okay, so in this previous example we did, let me see if we can apply it in this example. So you see in this example, this method price takes in two parameters. It takes in the price, it takes in the area. Okay, so you can give default figures to this function. Okay, what we mean, for instance, if they don't pass in a price, maybe take price to be maybe 1,000, and if they doesn't take if they don't provide area, the area taken as 1. So you are trying to say, in case there is no any value for price, take price as 1,000, and if there is no value for area, take area to be 1. That's what that one means. And these ones are what we call default values. You give the values that will be used if there is no any parameters passed. So if I come here and I remove this, inside I don't pass in any of these variables, you will see that if I hover here, you see the function has a price of equal 10 and area equal to 1. So if I go to the browser right now, it should give you something like 1,000. Okay, so because it is using these default values. Okay, so this is very important when sometimes you want a fallback. Okay, when you want a fallback, sometimes you write a program and you don't want it, maybe you want to give it default figures just in case they don't give in any figures. And the most good example is, for instance, when you're having a shopping cart. So shopping cart, you can always set its maybe cart items to 0 and then the price to 0. And then when they pass in when the price is when the items increase, then you now use them. Okay, so let's continue and see one more concept. Okay, so another one is another type of function called anonymous function. Okay, so anonymous function is a function without a name. It is also referred as a closure function or a lambda function. Okay, so this function, as you can see it does not have a name. You can see, let me first get a pen here. So you can see we normally put a name here and there is no name. Okay, there is no name. It's just a function with the parentheses, and then it has here a return. Okay, now what they did, or what you're supposed to do, is you can store its value you store it in this variable, and then you can be able to do the same thing here. Okay, yeah. So I think this also has many applications. Okay, so even in this very exercise we would have done that very stuff. Okay, so let's have a function that determines let's have a function that takes in that maybe gives a name. Okay, so we could just have a function. So that function, you can create it function, and then you don't have to give it any name. So let's say it takes in here first name and say first name, and then last name. Okay, these ones, remember, they are supposed to be variables to put $sign. Always remember that. So here we can return a full name, so we can concatenate. In fact, let's first call it here $full name. So the full name can be first name plus, so let me just use double quotes. I like using this. So I'm just going to put this first name, put space, and do the same thing on last name. This is how you can easily concatenate. This one is last name. Okay, and this spelling of first is terrible. Okay, so let me replace it like so. So we have full name, and then here we can return $full name like so. So if you look at this function, it has no name. Okay, so you have to save this function inside a variable you want. So we can just say $full name. Okay, $full name is equal to this. Let's put here semicolons to avoid this error we are seeing here. So you can see I've saved full name. I've put this function that actually generates a full name from first name and last name. Okay, so I can use this full name as an input to another one. So for instance, let's have a function. Maybe this time we can call it the function expression. I can just say function, and let me give a name to this one, function, and let's say student detail, maybe student detail, and then it is taking in two parameters. It takes in the full name. Okay, it takes in the full name and age. Okay, and $age, let's see, maybe let's put $course. Okay, it takes in the name and the course. Okay, so here we can return. So you see, we can return now. So we can just say student message. So let me create here something like a message that I want to send to the student or output, and I can say, for instance, your code. Okay, your code full name. Okay, your code full name. So I can just put here curly brackets, and I put $full name. Okay, put space, your code that, and you are taking and your course is, maybe say your course is dollar course. Okay, so you see we have this message. So at the end of the message we can of course put the semicolon, and on a new line we can return. And in fact, let me just echo this out, echo message. Okay, so function, unexpected function. We having, have we not closed the curly braces? So make sure, by the way, you have all these curly braces put on these things, the semicolons, curly braces, the semicolons. Sometimes if you don't put semicolons, it will always give an error in the next line. So we have this function. It takes in full name and the course. Of course, we can just come here and we call student. Let's call student details. Okay, and it takes in two stuff: full name, okay, and then it also takes in the course. So we can calculate the full name from the function above here, this full name. So we can invoke that function. Let me just say full name. Okay, I can just say full name, and I pass in to the first name. Let's just say okay, and then I also pass in John. Okay, and then after that I pass in the course. Maybe the course is maybe programming. Okay, just for simplicity, like that. And I defined, I don't know if it's supposed to be dollar full name, like so, since we put in a variable. So let's try to run this and see what we get. So if I go in the browser, okay, you are called Muke John, and your course is programming. Let me first remove this here, this echo price here. So you can see how we have combined this. We have a function here which gives us full name. Okay, this is this function. Its purpose here is giving us only full name. Okay, so this full name, we use it as an input to another function. You see that? And then we have the course. So this one takes two functions. Okay, it takes in two functions, and let's see this this error where it comes from. The parameter's full name is not named in camel case. Okay, so you sometimes will see you need to name these ones in camel case, but for now we can just ignore that. Okay, so function student details, and you can see it takes in two parameters, the full name and the course. So where we are getting the full name, we are getting the full name from this function above here. Okay, so we call it and we pass in the first name and the last name, and then after we pass in the course. Okay, and that's why we are able to have this. So great. So now at this point you know how to create anonymous functions. Okay, then last is arrow function. Okay, so an arrow function is just a way, or is a shorthand of writing a function. Okay, so this, let's just take an example here. Let's take an example. So in this example here, I'm just going to go down here. First take off this function. So down we can have a function like this. So here, this is the name of the function, multiply. And this function, you can see we put a shorthand of a function into fn. So fn is here in this case a shorthand for function, and then takes in two parameters, takes in num1 and num2. Now this arrow here, where you have this arrow, and that's why it is called an arrow function, this one means return. Okay, and it returns the multiplication of these two numbers. Now in brief, if you had a function that like this one, student details, you start with the function name, which is here, and then you put the keyword function, and then you put in two parameters, like for in this case num1 and num2, and instead of putting these curly brackets here to return, you simply just write an arrow and then you return what you want. And then here you can come and invoke the function here. So you can invoke the function like so. Okay, you can invoke the function like so. So arrow functions, I find them useful if you have only one line of what you're executing can fit on one line. Okay, in a case something like this, if you have a very big logic, for instance it is a very big computation, or it is a very big logic, you just simply use other types of functions. We have seen normal functions, we have seen closure or anonymous functions, and now lastly we have seen an arrow function. Okay, so great. So at this point I think you are ready to try out some exercise. Okay, so there are some exercises here. Okay, there are exercises. Try to do this exercise, and please submit if you can. If you're in the group, you can submit this onto my email. If you're just watching on YouTube, you can try to post your answer in the description. I would like to see your answer, or you can just comment with your GitHub link, and we have that code looked at, and then we can comment on your code. But try to complete these challenges. That's the only way you can try to get this concept sinking. Okay, so in this example you can see the first assignment, number 1. It says a restaurant wants to calculate a tip amount for a table of 4 customers. Write a PHP function that takes in a total bill amount and the percentage of the tip as parameters, and return the total tip amount and the total bill amount including the tip. Okay, so you try out to do that assignment, and then you can just test your skill where you have reached. You know, it is not just good to watch a tutorial and then after tutorial and you think you have grabbed the concept. Apply the concept and you see what you can do. So let me just try for you this assignment 1, and you see how you would approach this kind of question. So let me paste this here. Okay, I'm just going to put it on multiple lines. So let me put on multiple lines so that we can just read this question together. So you say a restaurant wants to calculate the tip amount for a table of 4 customers. Write a PHP function that takes in the total bill, so that is the first thing, amount, and the percentage of the tip as parameters. And what do we return? They want us to return the total tip amount and also the total bill amount including the tip. So first of all, so you can see the name of the function, we can generate it in what it does. So it should be write a page that takes wants to calculate the tip amount. So we can just say function. So you can give it a function name tip amount. Okay, and what does the tip amount take in as parameters? So it takes in the total bill. So you can just say here $total bill. Okay, and another one, it takes in the percentage of the tip as a parameter. So you can just say dollar tip percent. Okay, dollar tip percent, and then okay, and then return what? So what do we want to return? So inside here, what they want us to calculate, they want the percentage return and returns tip amount. So they want total tip amount, okay, and then also the total bill amount including the tip. Okay, so you can just first come here and calculate the tip amount. So dollar tip amount, total amount of the tip. So since we have the total bill and you have tip percentage, we can calculate the tip by saying tip percent. Okay, so it will be dollar tip percent times, okay, times total bill. So we have the total bill, and then divide by 100. Since this tip is a percent, so we divide by 100 to make sure this is catered for, the percentage is catered for. Okay, and this will give us the tip amount. So the total bill including the amount, so you just say total bill with tip. Okay, so we can just calculate that one by saying it is total bill, the one we passed in, that is a total dollar. So it is equal to dollar total bill plus this tip amount. Okay, so plus the tip amount. Sorry for that, I just want to put this tip amount. Can I just simply copy this? Okay, so here we are calculating, let me make this one common case, total bill with tip. It will be total bill, the one they gave us, plus the tip amount, and then we could give a result here. We could just say a result, or we could just give us a message. Okay, so message, we could just see the tip amount is dollar tip amount. So we could just put this. Okay, we could just simply concatenate it here inside. The tip amount is this tip amount, and total bill is, so you can just go in here and total bill with tip is, so let's also put it here. Okay, it is this one, total bill with tip, the one you have calculated just there, just as simple as that. And then we can of course echo out here result. Okay, so we can echo the result, and if we go in the browser, let me first remove this one. If we went to the browser, and of course we have to invoke the function. So to invoke the function, let's call calculate. What are we calculating? Let me just simply copy this function, tip amount. So just say tip amount and pass in the parameters, takes in two parameters, total bill. So just say we have a total bill of 100,000, something like this. Okay, and then they give us a 10% tip. How much would the total be? So if we just here and run, you see the tip amount is 10,000 and the total bill is 110,000. Okay, so if they gave you the total bill was 10,000, 100,000, and you give you 10% of the tip amount as the tip percent, this would be the tip and this would be the total bill. Okay, so you can see this is the approach you can take. You can take these questions, take your time, and the most important thing is to know what are the parameters or what are the arguments, and then the second important thing is the logic. How am I going to compute the logic? There is no one who is going to tell you how to use the parameters to compute the argument. Normally, most of these functions are really real world scenarios. They are telling you to calculate the salary, maybe you are calculating the tax, or anything you want to calculate. The logic behind calculating it is always known. So have the logic, know the variables, and then come inside here, compute, and know what you want to return. What do they want me to return? In this case, return it, and then you can have it here. Okay, so this is great. Try out all these assignments. Thank you for watching, and to those who have not subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can continue making content and have it accessible to you. Okay, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.